Welcome everyone to Healthwatch Redbridge online AGM and my first as chair. I would like to introduce you to my fellow directors, Athena Daniels and Emma Friddin, who is currently co-opted. An apology has been sent from our finance director, Mo Dedat, but he has said something in that Kathy will read out later. At the end of 2020, our chair, Vanda Thomas, stood down. I have known Vanda for many years and I thank her for her guidance, experience and knowledge over these years, more so from the beginning of the pandemic. My thanks also go to Glynis Donovan, who also chaired Healthwatch Redbridge, and Mike New for their commitment and hard work over many years. I must also thank Kathy Turland, our CEO, for all her hard work and especially for supporting me in my new role as chair. Her commitment to Healthwatch Redbridge cannot be quantified in writing, but all through the pandemic, she, together with my fellow directors, have continued to steer us through choppy waters. Therefore, my thanks also go to my fellow directors, Athena and Mo, plus Emma. They have also helped me enormously in my new role as chair, and I thank them for their commitment. We have worked in uncharted waters. However, during the past 2 years since the pandemic began, we have had to adjust the way in which we continue to work. Whilst all volunteers, members of staff and directors have continued to work from home, the service offered to our members and non-members has not been compromised. Healthwatch Redbridge continues to work as effectively and efficiently from home until we feel that it is safe to return to work in our offices. We have continued to provide the same quality of service, although our funding has been reduced. I'm pleased to say that the London Borough of Redbridge will be renewing our contract from April 2022 until the end of March 2023. We are just waiting for confirmation in writing. There has been a change in staffing, and a few months ago we welcomed Dawn Hobson, who is our projects officer. Her background in nursing and health and social care is a welcome addition to our already experienced and knowledgeable team. My thanks go to Dawn and our other staff members, Miranda and Nat, and our volunteers. Without them, we would not be able to function as successfully as it does. When Kathy Turland, our CEO, talks us through Healthwatch's presentation, you will see the amount of work that has been undertaken. Obviously, much has been around COVID, but we have also continued to work on other issues affecting our Redbridge residents. I will not steal Kathy's thunder, but just to say that there is also a feel-good factor to today's AGM. So thank you once again for everybody coming to our AGM on Teams. And now over to Kathy. Thank you all.
Thanks, Lorraine. That was really nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, I concur. The staff and board have really kept Healthwatch going over the last year, and our volunteers who have, some of them have continued to work with us, some haven't been able to for obvious reasons, and it's really important to understand that we couldn't do this job without them. Quick housekeeping, if you could place yourselves on mute, otherwise we'll do it for you. If you want to say something, please use the chat box or raise your hand. There is an electronic hand if you're used to using Teams. We've all become experts at Teams at the moment, but if you have a question, please do put it in there. Nat, our media officer, is going to keep an eye on the chat box for us if he can, to ensure that if I don't see it or Lorraine doesn't see the question, that we do answer it, or we do get to it. If the connection drops out for any reason, this is technology, as we know, please allow us about 5 minutes for us to rejoin if one of us freezes. I have been known to freeze on many occasions and have to quickly come back in. We are recording this and it will be made available on our website, because we know that there are a lot of people that would normally come to our events in person, and we haven't been able to do that for the obvious reasons of the pandemic. So we felt that it was only appropriate to record this. You can leave if you do not wish to be recorded, but that's what we're doing. If you don't wish to ask a question, then that you will not show up on the screen. Just a quick run through of the agenda. I know we're a little bit behind time, but we will make that up. We're planning to finish at 6 o'clock. We're going to do a short presentation on our highlighting heroes nominations. This was something that, as Lorraine alluded to, feel good factor. It was absolutely wonderful to hear about some of the things that people did, whether they were staff members or volunteers throughout the pandemic, throughout the last 18 months, the amount of people that have gone above and beyond their roles to ensure that others have support has been fantastic and really heartwarming. And we've had quite a few nominations come through, and we'll be telling you all about that in a moment. We'll run through the minutes of the last meeting. As you can see, it was nearly 2 years ago that we actually had an AGM in person. Pandemic caused a lot of things to go awry, and that was one of them. So we'd like to go through that. I will give you a short rundown of what we did last year and what we plan to do this year, which might interest you. Well, I hope it interests you. Our accounts, appointment of the auditors, directors, appointment of new directors and such like, that's all got to be there, as it's our annual general meeting. So we will get through this agenda. Right, now on to the good things. So, as I said, highlighting heroes. After this AGM, we will be publishing a special newsletter. Within the next week, we will have published it. And it recognises people who have been nominated by their peers, by staff members, by volunteers, by other people that they know, just to tell us what they've been doing during the pandemic. Now, I can't run through the amount of people within that report, within that document, that newsletter, but I wanted to pick out a few, not for any reason apart from that I couldn't fit everyone on, but we will, over the next coming weeks, we will start to pick on stories and talk about in more detail each and every person that was nominated, and why they were nominated. And some have been really touched by that nomination, and it's been really nice to have a good news story during the pandemic, I must say. It's something that we've been looking forward to, and I have to thank Miranda, our volunteer coordinator, for this wonderful idea. She brought this to us, and we all thought, "Wow, that's really sounds good. Let's do it." So we did. But I think she rused the day that she did it, because the amount of work that's gone into this, it's been a lot. Right, so let's start with some of our nominees. So firstly, we'd like to nominate, or Age UK, Barkinghaven and Redbridge, Pat Fitzsimmons has nominated Sandra Joseph. Sandra works for Age UK BHR. But Sandra, not only did she ensure that all the information that they provided was up to date and accessible, she took on more calls. She was doing over 300 calls a week, and providing support for staff and volunteers alike. And it was that can-do attitude that really supported people, particularly Pat, who said Sandra supported her and other staff within their roles. That's not what's written in the newsletter. It goes into much more details, but I'm just giving you a flavour of why each of these people were nominated. David Howard is a volunteer at Glebeland's practice, and he carried on doing that throughout the pandemic. And he's been a long time volunteer, but during the pandemic, he also became an NHS volunteer responder. The role was as a check-in and chat person. So he volunteered to contact particularly vulnerable people and those at risk of shielding. On top of that, he didn't just stop there. He became a patient transport worker. So he was helping with hospital transport and helped also in the vaccination hubs. So an all-round volunteer. So well done, David. It was fantastic reading these nominations, I can tell you. Shripana Roy. Shripana works for Public Health, and it was a young lady, Motson Holab, who works with the Roma community that particularly nominated or wanted to nominate Shripana for her work with the Roma community across the borough and beyond. Shri has worked to engage with the Roma community to encourage them with the take-up of the COVID vaccine. But more than that, she's helped with other issues to support families with other health and social care issues, such as ensuring people got the support when they need it. So clearly an all-rounder. And also with Shri, she's come to us, she's told us about issues, and we're now helping with that piece of work. We want to do a project particularly off the back of these nominations. Abdullah Mohammed. Abdullah is an employment solicitor and he works with the Employment Law Project. He was nominated by a volunteer, Mariam Mohammed. And during the pandemic, the project under Mohammed became more reactive. It helped many more people who needed help due to the impact of the pandemic on their jobs. More support was given by phone and email than ever before, and the project didn't close its doors at all at any time. Fantastic achievement. We all know how tough it has been making new ways of working, embedding those new ways of working. Christy Cody is a paediatric oncology nurse at Whipps Cross Hospital. So she works particularly with children and young people and their families. Ghislaine Stevenson is the Associate Director of Nursing, and she nominated Christy for this special newsletter. Because when the Children's Oncology Service was moved from Whipps Cross to Royal London in March 2020 because of the pandemic, Christy went with it so she could continue to support children and young people and their families. Christy has been nominated for her hard work and for truly partnering with children and young people and their families in order to ensure that they all had a real say in their treatment paths, which is what we want to hear. It's what we want to hear about, patients becoming partners in their own support care needs. Next is Jason Blackwell. Jason is works at Barkinghaven and Redbridge University Trust. He actually works at King George Hospital as a blood sciences reception supervisor. And if that's a title, I want it. Eden Watts, the medical laboratory assistant, nominated him, and says, not only did Jason work throughout the pandemic, he also helped out in the mortuary across both Queen's and King George Hospital, ensuring that everyone was treated with compassion and respect. He stepped over and above. He continued with his job, but he also did that work as well. It's fantastic to think. And again, a lot of health workers changed roles, moved over, helped out, made sure that their teams weren't left wanting. Bushra Tahir is the leader of AWAS, a women's group, but she's also a real community champion. We've known Bushra for many years and the work that she does within the community. And it was reflected in the nominations because many, many people nominated Bushra from many different organisations and individuals across Redbridge. Bushra has supported a single parent to continue with their education. She's helped families secure additional support throughout the pandemic. She's enabled more donations to the food bank. And one nomination read simply, Bushra looks after me. Well, you can't get better than that, can you? Particularly this day and age. And Karina Midgley, Dr. Karina Midgley is the medical director at St Francis Hospice, and she was nominated by Doctors Lucy Bemand Qureshi and Rory Carrigan at BHRUT, so Queen's and King George Hospital. Karina was nominated for the support that she gave the hospice during the pandemic because it's been really tough. It's been a really tough job. But Karina has continued to inspire and support not only her own teams, but those within other health sectors. She's changed the premises layout at the hospice to ensure more bed space meant that up to 80% of support could be given to 80% of patients could still access hospice support. And that meant that more people had greater choice and control during some particularly traumatic times. More home visits helped people to cope as well. But it's also those little things that make a difference, like ensuring handwritten notes and condolence messages were sent. We had 14 nominations and they've all been included in our special newsletter, which will be available shortly. The newsletter helped us to ensure, or it will help us to spread that word. But we're going to continue this work after the pandemic. I mean, after the pandemic, it's still going, but we're not just going to concentrate on the pandemic. We're going to look at other people who have helped and gone above and beyond. So we will continue to look for nominations over the coming months. Thank you, Lorraine. It's now back to you, unless anyone has any questions. No, okay. Over to you, Lorraine. It's the minutes of the last meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Right. Okay. The minutes were emailed out, so I hope people have had an opportunity to read them. Yes, it is a long time ago, isn't it, since we met. Just really want to make sure that the minutes are accurate. I'll go page by page, if we can all remember back that far. So the first page, I think that's second page. Okay, then we go down, Kathy.
Yeah. Try. There we go.
Yeah. And the third page.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I know how keen you are to get them
Now.
approved. And the 4th page, beginning with phlebotomy.
Yeah.
And the final 2 pages. If there aren't any comments about the minutes, then
there are no action points.
no, I realise that. So can we approve the minutes and sign? Do we have to have a hands up or?
I think if anyone calls out, then we can take comments. But if they don't call out, then we'll take it as read.
Okay, then we'll take it as read.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Great, that's good.
Back to me now.
It's like the 2 Ronnies.
It is. It is. We'll say that at the end, shall we? Okay, so firstly, and I know Lorraine has mentioned this, our directors and staff have been the backbone of this organisation. It has been really important to continue with the structure. Working from home has been, well, when we closed the office on the 23rd of March, we were expecting to open within 2 weeks, but that's nearly 2 years ago. Well, 20 months ago, isn't it now? So it has been interesting to get used to different ways of working, but I think from this report you will see that we have continued to work, albeit online most of the time. We have just started to have in-person meetings, but they are very few and far between at the moment because there isn't a taste for it or an appetite for it. So it has been something that we are getting used to. So our annual report has been published and is available. So I'm not going to read verbatim through it, but it is interesting to see that because we had a couple of focus groups online, we have met with 82 people through focus groups. 870 people we've engaged with, and that's through the surveys and the reports that we've completed. Our volunteers have still completed 743 hours. Last year it was nearer 890, I believe. So not a lot of difference, but this has been about volunteers changing the way that they've worked. So a lot more phone calls, investigations across emails. Some people have stepped outside of their comfort zone and tackled things that they never thought possible. So it's been a learning curve for everyone. But it has been extremely good. Reports I will talk about in a moment. And we have noticed that information and signposting support requests have increased. They've started to increase, but they're also becoming more complex during the pandemic for obvious reasons. People are looking for and trying to access information, and it's been a learning curve for many organisations. So our work plan priorities for 2020-21 mostly, if not all, have been to do with COVID-19. We became more reactive to concerns and issues being raised. Hospital services, and this is all in our annual report and our audited accounts, but hospital services, in April last year, we got a lot of concerns raised about do not resuscitate and blanket DNR processes being put onto patients, and families were very concerned about it. And we raised this not only with our local hospitals and our clinical commissioning groups, we also sent those findings to the Care Quality Commission and also to Healthwatch England, our umbrella national body. These issues weren't just local. They didn't just affect people in Redbridge. There was a national concern raised around do not resuscitate orders, and nationally clearer guidance has been issued due to the concerns that were raised. In March and April, we heard that there were COVID concerns in care homes due to the amount of patients that were being discharged from hospital back into care and nursing homes who had either not been tested for COVID or had COVID and were being released into that situation, into homes. So much so, and we've seen the national picture, it's an issue across the country. We raised it as a concern immediately because it just didn't sit right. Certain issues, certain elements of that discharge process have changed due to that work. Phlebotomy services, this is blood testing, both in and out of hospital. Most hospital blood testing centres closed to patients from outside because of the obvious risk of COVID being spread by patients coming in just for a blood test. So a lot more community blood testing was being arranged. Wasn't always successfully arranged, and so a lot of concerns were raised. We've kept an eye on this. We're working closely with our colleagues at the Clinical Commissioning Group and at North East London Foundation Trust, who are commissioned to provide a lot of services. And there is currently a phlebotomy consultation being that is doing the rounds, so I'll make sure that Nat shares that again online just to update regarding what services there are currently and what could be in the future. We know that a lot of GP practices were in extreme pressures during COVID, during the pandemic, and still are. But we were hearing a lot about appointments and websites and online services being curtailed or closed for those times. So we have been working really hard with our colleagues as GPs and across clinical commissioning groups to ensure that services are available. And if they're not available, why? And how you can access services, and any issues that were raised, we have raised them, we've forwarded that, we've signposted people to where they need to go. We completed a large COVID survey, and that has fed nationally into national surveys across England. We picked up that vaccine hesitancy was clearly a concern for particular groups of people from some minority ethnic groups and communities, and we've raised this and worked closely with public health. Our findings helped them to target specific communities and provide more accessible information to those communities. Leading on nicely to accessible information standards, last year we worked with Queen's Hospital to audit accessible information for people who had communication support needs. So people who may be profoundly deaf, have a learning disability, or a visual impairment. And we're doing the same with Bart's Health at the moment. It's taking a lot more time because at the moment we're not going into the hospital. So it's a challenge, but we're working closely with Queen Mary University students to see if we can do a lot of online auditing and surveys with staff and patients who may have communication support needs to take that forward. And finally, we are continuing to survey disabled people across North East London. This is with our partners, our colleagues from Healthwatches across the 8 boroughs in North East London. So that goes from Hackney, Tower Hamlets, Waltham Forest, right through to Barking and Havering, Barking, Dagenham and Havering, and all in between. We did a large piece of work. We got over 3,000 responses, survey responses across that large northeast area, and this is being supported by the clinical commissioning groups, now the integrated care system, or will be from April next year. So we're getting a lot of support in order to understand what the barriers are for disabled people, particularly through COVID. Quickly, I'll just give you a roundup of this year's work. We, from the Disabled People's Survey, we now have a community insights project, and we will have a database that will gather information and analyse information, and this is being supported by the integrated care system. So funding for this project is being channeled from the integrated care system. We heard, or 25% of our calls for support this year have been about accessing dentists, and you may have seen it on the news over the last couple of days about dentistry. We are completing a dentistry project at this moment in time, and it's harrowing, the findings that we're coming across. We are supporting the Whipps Cross redevelopment. So this is Whipps Cross Hospital. It will be, hopefully, fingers crossed, a new hospital. And we're supporting the information on that, making sure that people have an opportunity to have their say on the redevelopment itself. Safeguarding, we're working with our Safeguarding Adults Board to ensure that people who have been through the safeguarding process and their families have a chance to provide feedback on that process. Has it been okay for them? What could have been done better? This is in its infancy at the moment, this project, but we're hoping to take that further over the next few months. Dawn Hobson, who's our new projects officer, is working across Barking and Dagenham and Havering with colleagues from those health watches to review the effects of long COVID. Long COVID is an issue for quite a few people, both locally and nationally. Younger people have had effects of long COVID. But it affects a lot of people, and we want to ensure that the services are provided that are needed. I won't go through accessible information, I've talked about that already, but we have had concerns from Afro-Caribbean communities around or regarding maternity services, and we're just working up a project around that at the moment, and we will have meetings with both Whipps Cross and Queen's and King George Hospital regarding their maternity services and how people can access those services. And as I said, Shri over at Public Health Redbridge has been working with Roma communities, and she has supported us in engaging with those communities about barriers to accessing health and care services. So it's really important work. love you to, if you've got an interest in any of those projects, to let Miranda know, and we will see how they develop over the next few months. And I'm nearly running out of voice, but we're fine so far. So I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has any questions. So Mo Dadat is our director who's responsible for finance. He's a qualified accountant, and he's very sorry that he cannot be here tonight, but he has given me, thank goodness, some notes, because I am not financially or technically minded. But it is important to just fill you in on some of the detail. I'm not going to go through them all. They are there to be read. If you have any questions afterwards, please put them in writing or give me a call. That's absolutely fine. But I've brought up the statement. This is the year end for us, so it shows income and expenditure for our accounts. But I thought it would be helpful if I just do, and by the magic of PowerPoint, if we just look at this column here, which shows our income, which was 119,900, and our outgoings show that we have the income was greater than our expenditure. So we have a surplus of 1,616. 1,616 pounds. But that is mainly due to us not having a full complement of staff due to the impact of COVID. And we have a total funds at the balance sheet showing 42,157. So, pleasures of working from home, and you get disturbed, sorry. There are no particular items of an exceptional or unusual nature to bring to members' attention. And in line with our policy, we have between 3 and 6 months of expenses and reserve in our reserve. So we are buoyant, if that's a word. Happy to take questions, but I may not know the answers. But happy to pass them on to Mo if there were any questions. No?
We now go to the appointment of auditors. We have used the same auditors over the last few years, and as always, they have put together all our accounts, etc. So I'm asking for members to not only adopt our accounts, but also to reappoint our auditors, who are Reddy, Siddiqui and Kabani, for the auditors to be appointed for the next year. Unless anybody raises their hand, can we assume that the accounts have been adopted and the auditors are going to be reappointed? No hands?
Sounds good.
Yep, that's good. So our accounts are adopted and our auditors are reappointed for the next year. Thank you, everyone.
And just to confirm, Chair, members are also asked to authorise the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors. So at our next board meeting, we will fix the costs of those that have not changed for the last 4 years. So that's one of the reasons why.
Thank you, Kathy.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Moving on. This is one for me. This is the appointment of eligible directors. Directors are retiring by rotation. So every year, one of or two of our directors, it depends on how many years they've been in post, they retire, but they are eligible to stand for re-election. In this case, we have one director who is retiring by rotation, and that is Mo Dedat. He has said that he is willing to stand. And we are in the process. We would like to appoint a new director, Emma Friddin, who is at the moment co-opted. She came on must be 6 months ago now. She's doing a fantastic job, and we would like to confirm her as a director of the organisation. If there are no questions or comments, then I will take it from the silence that these are confirmed. Sounds good. Thank you. Over to you, Lorraine.
Thank you, Kathy. You know what they say, silence is golden.
It is. In this case, it is.
Yeah. Just to carry on from the directors, of course, we are looking for a couple more directors to come onto the board, because we have had people, former chairs, etc., have had to step down for various reasons. If you are interested about coming onto the board, being a director, please don't hesitate to contact Kathy, and she'll be able to give you lots of information, etc. I mean, for myself, I've been around more years than I care to remember before we even became Healthwatch. And yes, it has its ups and its downs, but on the whole, we're all committed. I can see Athena smiling there. So it can't be that bad, can it, Athena? She's not commenting. She's not saying anything. She's smiling. Okay, so we now come to any other business. Has anybody emailed in, Kathy? Any questions or any? No. Is there anybody that's online tonight? Is there any other business, any other issues, questions that they would like to raise while we're here? We have got time.
Yes, I had one question for mental health users.
Who is?
I'm Shazad Salim.
Oh yes, I can see you. Welcome.
It's a mental health projects in the area. Would you be promoting that, mental health projects?
Would you like me to answer that, Lorraine?
Yes, please.
Hi, Shazad. How are you?
I'm very good, very good. Are you
Good.
okay? Good.
Yes, good. Yes, wonderful.
Yep.
Oh yes, I recognise you now. Yeah.
Yes, we haven't stopped supporting mental health services. It's been a tough year. I think we have concentrated more on COVID for the obvious reasons. But during this year, I have been particularly interested in being trained as a mental health first aider. I'm also a trainer, and we will be taking that project online, where we will be offering mental health first aid training to not only our volunteers but other community organisations, and supporting people to address the issues and concerns regarding mental health. We are also working closely with North East London Foundation Trust, normally it's called NELFT, who support mental health services across the area, because they are keen on engaging with more people who have used mental health services, and they want our help and our support, and we'd be happy to do that. I think it's really important. This year has been has seen mental health issues coming to the notice of public. It's more acceptable to talk about mental health, and to say it's okay to not be okay. And yes, it is something that we will actively look at, creating newer projects to support people in the future. But it's not just about supporting, it's about engaging with people, and ensuring that that message gets out there. Does that answer your question, Shazam?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
Right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for raising the question. It's mental health is ongoing, irrespective of the pandemic. More so, as we know, with people being at home, becoming isolated, and it's great that Kathy's been able to do the training and take that forward.
Definitely.
Thank
you.
Sorry, Kathy.
No, carry on.
I was just going to say, is there anybody else that would like to raise an issue or say something? Any volunteers? If we have any volunteers on with us? No?
There was a very small question I had regarding some sports activities. Do you also promote that as well? Promote sports like tennis, in a local area? You do the tennis competitions and things like that?
I don't know so much about whether we would promote that, but if you've got information and details about anything, let us know. If it we can always put it on our website. That's absolutely fine, because a lot of people get a lot of pleasure out of getting out and getting fresh air, and it's really good for some people's mental health, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very good, very good. So what I'll do, I'll give you the information if I have it on hand.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Sally, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, it's just one of the points you raised. One of the projects was trying to make GPs more accessible for people at the moment. I've got a few friends who are having a lot of trouble getting appointments with their GPs. Now, if I hear, is it all right? Because I don't really know personally how to help them, but is it worth me contacting you?
Definitely. Definitely,
I
Sally.
can't do anything, but yeah, I'll keep hearing it. Oh, I just can't get an appointment, and I'll just say, oh dear, I feel that I'd like to help in some way.
Yeah, definitely put them in touch with us, and we'll see what we can help with. We can certainly signpost, and I know Miranda has been doing a lot of work on that.
Yeah,
just our normal number.
Oh right, so I'll just give them your phone number and.
Yeah, I'll put it up at the end of this anyway.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, Sally.
Thank you, Sally. Yeah, I mean, I've heard today various surgeries across Redbridge are still refusing to see patients face to face.
Yeah.
And we know that the government are, wanting to encourage to try and return as much as we can to face-to-face appointments. So yeah, I think this is something that we really need to maybe look at if we can in more details, because it is affecting a lot of people. And as we know, you know, it's difficult if someone is, you know, elderly or disability, or, you know, whatever, or if you've got a hearing impairment, you can't always hear what's being said on the phone.
No.
So yeah, thank you, Sally, for raising that.
That's all right.
We are interested in hearing from anyone who's still having concerns or haven't been able to contact their surgeries, and we do pass all those on, and we do get a lot of responses. We do, you know, there are, I think we have to understand that this pandemic is not going to go away, or the COVID is not going to go away. The pandemic hopefully will lighten in a little while. I'm not sure when, or ease. But I do think we are going to have to get used to and adapt to new ways of working. But it is about that choice, and it's about understanding what choices are out there and ensuring that people who can't access services in any other way can actually do face-to-face if they need to. It is important. It's an important issue, and we will continue to highlight it and raise it with our colleagues.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you.
Athena, as one of the directors, Athena, is there anything that you would like to say before we close the meeting?
No, I don't think so. I think you've covered it all, but really I just like to say how grateful I am to have such lovely colleagues, because it's been tough over the last year, and I think everybody's really tried really hard to keep things going and to help and support each other. So a very big thank you to all the staff, directors, volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you, Athena. I think everyone we have either come into contact or who works with us or who's our board members have all been touched in some way by COVID, whether it is by themselves getting ill, or someone in their family getting ill, some unfortunately passing away. Myself, my daughter had a lockdown baby. It's from cradle to grave, really. The issues and the impact of COVID have touched everyone's lives, and we have to understand how we can support people in different ways, and to ensure that one, that they're heard, but secondly, that they're listened to. Because you can hear a lot of people just, yeah, I'm hearing what you're saying, but they're not listening to the issues and the impact that this is having on patients. So it is really important. But it's the wider communities as well. You know, the highlighting heroes showed that. I think it's about, you know, the fact is that people have gone out of their way to support other people. Redbridge CVS, Redbridge Council for Voluntary Service, have a volunteer hub, and they saw an increase in people wanting to volunteer by about 600% in the first few months of, well, from March to May last year. And that's a fantastic celebration of the local people in Redbridge and how they come forward and react to such a crucial time. And I think we need to see more of that, and I think we will, because people will want to help. And that's the good thing that's come out of this pandemic. If anything that's good come out of this pandemic, it's about people wanting to help other people and not for reward.
Yeah, for sure. Emma, I think she's on. Emma, would you, as our now newly elected director?
Hi, everybody. I have nothing to add, thank you. I just concur what Athena said. It's been great to join the organisation this year, and I'm very thankful for all of the work that the team are doing and all the great work that Kathy's doing and the support of the fellow directors. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Emma. We look forward to working with you for a long time yet, and with your wealth of experience, we can just go, as I say, onwards and upwards. So, Kathy, is there anything finally you would like to say?
Well, there is actually something that happened about half an hour ago that I wanted to catch up with everyone about. So this is hot off the press. And we had been nominated along with our colleagues from Healthwatches across the patch, so across the integrated care system patch. So that's 8 Healthwatches within that borough. And the work that we did on disabled people survey, and we won the Healthwatch England Network Awards.
Wow.
For working with our integrated care system.
Well
so
done.
that was fantastic to hear. We were up against some really tough competition, and so a lot of publicity and press will be released over the next day or so. So I will be coming to you, Lorraine, for a quote, and we will be releasing that very shortly.
That's great. So when are we going to party?
Well, I think we should start it shortly.
Well done, us. Well done for all the hard work that everybody's done. That's a great note to finish with, I have to say. Thank you, Kathy. So, officially.
Well,
sorry, was that Sally? Did you say something?
I've just said well done for your.
Oh, thank you, Sally.
Thanks, Sally.
Yeah,
thank you.
Very good.
Okay, that's great. So we can now close the meeting. When the board meets, we will try and sort out a date for our next AGM, but of course it can be movable depending on what situation we are in at the time. But at least, you know, we're there, we're still working hard, we haven't gone away, and that's the most important thing.
It certainly is. Thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure. It's been very quiet, I must admit. It's very quiet. But yeah, if you do want to get in touch with us, please let us know. And if you'd like a copy of the presentation, let me know, and I'll get Nat to send it out to everyone.
So what do we say? It's goodbye from
me,
and it's goodbye from
her.
Goodbye from us.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Take care. Look after yourself.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
I think we